Hi everyone, my name is Olumide Idowu and I will be moderating today's session. And I'm very happy because a lot of young people are sitting down behind the scene to watch this conversation that we'll be having the Second World Youth Forum under the World Forum. So guys, I want you to sit down, tighten your seatbelt, and join us to listen to wonderful young people across the world. Once again, my name is Olumide Idowu, and I'm here as a director for youth for the World Green Growth Organization. And this year, on the Youth Pavilion, is a space for young professionals and conference participants to share solutions and exchange perspectives around the conference theme. The aim is to bring together all sectors of society to foster cooperation and promote a platform of inclusivity, innovation, and empowerment, featuring sessions on youth, entrepreneurship, sustainable development, and innovative solutions to global challenge. And today, my guest today, I'll be having Vedalish Kaim, is one of the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change. I'm very, very happy to find him, to get him, and to bring him on board to come and speak to diverse young people across the world. And we're also going to be having somebody, a very good friend, sister, and lovely person, Temilade Salami. She's the founder and executive director for EcoChampions. You're going to be hearing from them, ideas, vision, power, how they're putting challenges into opportunities. And it's going to be a very great panel discussion. And our participants will speak for close to 10 minutes on what they do, the expertise for the future challenges and opportunities in improving the health of the planet. As we all know that we just got back from COP26, and a lot of people are talking about what is next and what has actually changed for developing countries and for the global north as well. And today, our conversation is going to be focused on climate action, the rise of a global movement. We've seen a lot of campaigns, a lot of movement during the COP26. And today we want to see how we can turn that movement, turn that conversation to action, and how to see people, what young people are actually doing to move forward and to see how they are getting the space in the platform. Once again, my name is Olumide Idowu. I'm the co-founder of International Climate Change Development Initiative, Africa, and the Youth Focal Point for the UNDP SG program, and the Youth Lead Author for Geo for Youth, and also the Communication Director for IIC Africa. So I'm going to be bringing on board our first speaker today to speak with us for like 5 to 10 minutes on majorly to talk about his expertise and the future challenges and opportunities of improving the health of the planet. Valish, you have the floor. Thank you.
Distinguished moderator, dear speakers, and all the colleagues who are watching our session at the World Green Growth Summit, I am congratulating you on your ability and dedication of time to be present at our session. I am Vladislav Kaim. I am UN Secretary General's Youth Advisor on Climate Change, and it is an honor for me to be able to address you at such an important moment in time, just a few days right after COP26 has concluded its work. For youth, it has been an extremely mixed outcome that generated a lot of mixed feelings, most of them of frustration. We have seen in the very last days of the conference how power politics can stifle progress in terms of ambitious decarbonization targets and ambitious language on the phase out of the fossil fuels that brought us to the point where we are reaching near climate disaster. For us youth, the generation of ours and the one after us that will be coming and who will be dealing with the consequences of the decisions taken today for the next 40 to 50 years, resilience in all aspects of it is a key word. Without resilience, there won't be anything to salvage for our livelihood. Resilience in terms of climate work for us youth should be primarily focused on resilience of our communities, but even more so, the resilience of youth engagement in the international system. Most of us who are doing youth work, regardless of the level that we are activating in, are doing their work in a volunteer capacity. The resources that youth are getting for their projects are meager because traditional funders are considering us and labeling us a risk due to the fact that the scale of the projects that we usually undertake is not sufficient for them to show in their reports as money well spent. Resilience for us in climate spaces, it is about primarily being able to take care of themselves, as there will be no one else to take care of us instead of us. Thus, I encourage all of the colleagues who were actively participating at COP26 or were following it from afar, from home, extremely closely, to take a significant break and to ensure that your mental health is prepared for the next challenges in your agenda that are coming. As we face the challenges of climate change and the need to adapt for the future, we need to make sure that we are multifacetedly preparing ourselves for that. That means for many communities, even potentially changing home or doing significant work around their communities to ensure that they were able to withstand future challenges. For many of us, it will mean changing jobs. For many of us, it will also mean going into politics to lobby for much more ambitious and stringent climate targets. Some of us will also go at the international level to ensure that the voices, particularly of those communities who were previously underrepresented, are heard there as well. We need to be prepared to ensure that every day and every opportunity that we take in the climate space is the opportunity to promote our ideas, find new allies, and together stand for something that we all care about. And that something is climate justice. That this climate justice is the rallying cry for us for years to come, and an assurance that our generation has what the UN Secretary General called our common agenda. Because if we do not inject climate justice at the center, also go at the international level to ensure that the voices, particularly of those communities who were previously underrepresented, are heard there as well. We need to be prepared to ensure that every day and every opportunity that we take in the climate space is the opportunity to promote our ideas, find new allies, and together stand for something that we all care about. And that something is climate justice. That this climate justice is the rallying cry for us for years to come, and an assurance that our generation has what the UN Secretary General called our common agenda. Because if we do not inject climate justice at the center of international, of multilateral efforts to tackle climate change, however youth will adapt or be resilient towards future shocks will not matter, because again and again we will be out of the places where climate justice is made or broken. And it's on us to make sure that it's not going to be broken. Thank you.
Very much, Village. That was very, very powerful. And I can say that a lot of people listening to us today will be able to understand that you've touched base on a very critical words and a critical conversation here. And when we talk about rise of a global movement, you've talked about the politics, you've talked about the globalization, you've talked about languages, which a lot of young people are actually facing when it comes to actions. And you've mentioned resilience on the international scene and how resources is very limited for young people to actually carry out activities, actions they are actually doing in their space. And I can say that this is a very good commitment, a very good contribution to let us to understand that young people actually need to, start doing more and look at how they can improve their project-based activities. I can tell you that this is a very strong message you are telling us today. And we're moving forward now to quickly share with you some of the actions, I think it's very important we start looking at actions that young people need to start taking, because it's very, very important for us to look at climate action as a basis of improving our own projects and our own activities. And when we talk about the rise of a global movement, we've been able to see that out of the COP26, a lot of young people were driving conversation, a lot of young people were doing a lot of things. And it's something that we need to start talking about, because a lot of people always think that young people only shout, only talk. We are not talking, we are not shouting. We are no more a spectator. And that is why you see a lot of movement, a lot of groups, a lot of organization trying to change the narrative of how movement needs to be. And young people are actually also building collaborations, building support and opportunities for them to be also be part of this future that is a compound with challenges, future that is compound with compromised words, and future that is compound with a lot of health problem. And that's why you see it's high time for us to see all this issue, all this problem as an investment opportunity for us to grow and to develop ourselves. You can see from what our friend talks about, Velish, the UN, one of the UN uh, 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 one of the UN Secretary General Youth Advisory Group on climate change. He has brought a case why most of us cannot rise up to build a movement. You know, the political will, the globalization conversation that is there, and the language barrier that is making us not to actually get ourselves into space that is we need to be. And he also pointed the issue around the resources. You know, resources is very, very key to build or to rise a global movement. And without resources, most of us will not be able to push for that kind of conversation. So we need those space, we need those opportunity, we need an atmosphere that will help young people and that will help people to actually, demonstrate their ability to say that climate change is a problem and we want to get one voice to solve the problem. I mentioned when I started that we are no more a spectator. We want to be part of the implementation, not only the building the document and strategy. We want to be part of this implementation so that the kind of movement and the kind of body we are building will be able to help us to drive conversation that will change the narrative of how people see young people and how young people see themselves as a global citizen, as a climate activist, and as somebody that wants to build a sustainable future. So it's very, very important that we start talking about this and we have this at the back of our mind that building a movement is not about talking, but it's about collaboration, it's about joining forces together, and about coming together and set our eyes on what we want to actually build for ourselves and for the future of where we are. So I think, well, this is one of the challenges. So I think I have my sister here, Temilade Salami. She's going to also be sharing her own view in 10 minutes maximum so that we can go into the conversation that we want to talk about. Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here. Looking at the fact that COP26 just ended, these conversations are very, very needed. And good day to the moderator. Thank you so much, Mr. Olumide Idowu. It's a pleasure to be on this platform. And thank you, World Green Growth Organization, for organizing such a very important event. My name is Temilade Salami, and I'm the founder of EcoChampions. And EcoChampions is a youth organization in Nigeria, and we're a group of young people, and we lead climate change. We lead change through environmental sustainability, through tree planting, ocean conservation awareness. I'm also an author. I have written 2 environmental books for kids. And for the past 3 years, we've been going to schools to teach kids about the environment, about climate change, what they need to know, how to take action in their homes, in their schools, and beyond the 4 walls of their schools. We also go to, we also do outside the classroom exercises like planting trees, having upcycling events. And I must say that I am super excited to be on this platform sharing about some of the work that I do, because COP26 is over now. The question is, what next? And I must also say that one of the things that we've been talking about as young people is the fact that we need to be engaged in the decision making process. For every time that for every time events are being organized, treaties like COP, conference of parties, and even events around climate change, we hear people make speeches about young people, the future generations. We need to save the future generations. And when you look into the room to the far left, to the far right, you realize that the number of young people sitting in the room is little or even barely noticed, right? So we need to move beyond just talking about young people to involving them, involving us in the decision making process, right? And I must also say that climate change, while climate change is a global issue, it affects some people more than it actually do affect some people. And we fall in the category of the mostly affected people, young women, children. And if we are talking about saving the future, keeping the future, and making the future sustainable, it is just very important that the people you are speaking about are at the table and you are putting them in the policies, and not just at the end of the review of the policies, but in the process of coming up with the policies, and also making sure that their voices are being heard and their inputs are very, very considered, right? And I must also say that beyond all the things that we do, I use myself for example. I have written two books on climate education, illustrated, and I remember very well that all the money that I used to bring this book alive, to bring this book into fruition, I had to bring it out from my own pocket, right? And I must say that there were other people who were able to buy into the vision, who were just my friend through my network, were able to distribute free books for climate education in schools. But this is just me. I am just the only one doing this with the support of my friends. What happens when I have the right resources to scale the work that I do? I imagine that I'm already touching one school, two schools in Nigeria. How many schools are we going to touch for climate education if you have access to the right resources and the right knowledge and transfer of technology? We've also been talking about, climate adaptation, climate mitigation, for climate resilience. And I must say that young people are in the middle of this crisis. They are at the forefront of this crisis. And over the past few years, we've seen, the emergence of organizations, youth organizations, even movement like Friday for Future, and different organizations and movements that have been talking about climate change and the need for accelerated action. And I must say that because most of these young people are the ones who are bearing the brunt of, climate change, we need to be involved in all the processes that has to do with finance for climate resilience, adaptation, and mitigation, right? So we are creating technologies, we are creating solutions, but the question is, are we scaling it enough? Because we do not have the right resources to scale these ideas. Young people are very brilliant, they are very intelligent. We've created solutions to help us adapt to climate change, solutions that, domesticated within our countries, because we are the ones who understand what we are going through. So after creating these solutions, the question is, how well do we scale these solutions? How many communities can we reach? Because we do not have access to resources and, the right technology and the right knowledge to also help us push forward some of these things that we know and we want to build upon. And I must say that going forward, we also need to, as young people, we need to collaborate beyond borders. And we've seen that happen even at event like COP26, where you have people from different countries, different nations, different backgrounds, regardless of who you are, regardless of your color, your race. Everybody is coming together, united with one voice because of one issue that connects everyone together, and that is climate change. Because it's really affect everyone, but definitely not on the same scale, because the global south definitely suffers more than the global north. And these are the realities, because some of these countries, we the global south, some of us are underdeveloped, some of us are just developing, and we do not have the right resources and the right technology to help us jump through the hoop of the whole climate change and the climate crisis. So I would say that going forward, we need beyond tokenistic participation, which was even quite evident at COP26. There was no access to some rooms, negotiation rooms. If you were even going to get access, it will be overflow. And I'm referring to this because this is like a major event that brings together world leaders and even decision makers, and everybody keep giving speeches about the future, the future. The question is, who is going to the future? Who is in the future? We are the young people who are going to bear the brunt of most of the decisions that will be made in the room. So why are we not on the decision making table? We don't We don't just want to be at the reviews. Now we are done with the policies, let's bring them to the table to help us review, remove, or do some other things. Put us in the beginning of the process. Let us tell you, let us also make contributions and let you know that these are the realities, contextual realities in our country. Because what works for country A doesn't work for country B. What works for Uganda doesn't work for Nigeria. What works for Nigeria doesn't work for Somalia. So we need to bring everybody together, regardless of their race, their culture, their backgrounds, and wherever they are coming from, geographically, to bring solutions together to help us mitigate climate change. Like I said, we need beyond tokenistic participation. We need collaboration at all fronts, and definitely we need access to resources, finance to help us scale the work that we do. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Temilade. Let me quickly touch base on one of those things you've mentioned. Yes, I was part of COP26, and I can definitely say that this is one of the greatest, let me say, action that young people have taken, because I can see a lot of movement, a lot of campaign, a lot of lobbying, and you know, every left, center, right, everywhere. And from your own point, I think, let me first of all say thank you for that wonderful comment and presentation, and for the great work you are doing with Eco Champions, the books, the schools you've been able to share those books to. I'm very sure that a lot of those schools, even most of them might not know you, but they are benefiting from what they've seen you show them to do, and how you are building the future for the best and for the country like where you work in Nigeria, to make sure that everybody understand the impact of climate change and the issue of climate education, which is one of the great or one of the key agenda for young people now, because most
Yeah.
of us need to understand what we want to even talk about. And it's one of the greatest things that we need to do. You've talked based on the global issues, as climate change is one of the issue that we're actually facing, and it cuts across even the sustainable development goals. You've talked about how young people can be part of, the part and the process of the policy, or the bills that they are passing and everything. And I think I need to say this online. The Nigerian president just signed the climate change bill, and it's now into law. That's a very great news that happened today.
Yeah.
And this is one of the actions that we young people need to start to work on now. How
Mm.
will this bill transit into implementation?
Yeah.
So far, so good. Most of us might not be part of the processes, but we have been hearing a lot. But one of our greatest outputs is that it was passed by the Senate, and today it has been assigned by the president as a law. So a lot of things is going to happen, and it has already established the climate council. So we want to see a lot of things that's going to happen between this period and implementation phase. And thank you very much, being from Nigeria and making sure that Nigeria is also getting that space. You've talked about policy development. How do we be part of this? How can we make sure that it's not just when they want to, you know,
Review.
make some, yeah, that's when they will call us, which is not what we young people, I said it every time I talk, that we are not spectators. We want to
Mm.
be part of this conversation. We don't want to just let us just invite them to come and say their frustration. No,
Mm.
the implementation of all this agenda 1, article 6, everything that you're talking about, starting from the Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, rule book, everything is on board. And today, what we are saying in this youth forum is that we want to be part of the implementation, part of the process, and even if it is possible, you can make us as part of the people that will take action for these activities. Because when you have a bill that is speaking to a community or a country, then that bill means that it's it
Good.
covers every aspect. So
Sure.
if I'm disposing my waste in a way that is not appropriate, the bill says that you should not do this. Now lawyers have work to do when it comes to environmental law. This is the high time for everybody, because nobody is above the law, and the climate change bill has been passed to law. So thank you very much. And I want us to quickly go into this short questions from a lot of people that have already said to us that we need to ask this question. Based on your experience and what you've shared with us, what are some of the obstacles face youth for that face young people on climate change resilience? What do you think are the obstacles that we are facing? Because we've mentioned why they are not engaging us. Why are they not
Mm.
engaging us? What are the challenges? What are the obstacles that we are facing? And based on all the time you've been working and your own personal experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. And from my experience, I would say that there are basically three things, even though there are many things, but like three major things. I would say access to resources. And this is very, very important because even speaking about climate adaptation, climate mitigation, there has been a heightened expectation for, the $100 billion goal that the global north promised the global south. And there needs to be finances. I mean, basically, there needs to be finance for adaptation and mitigation. And these things, why they sound big and, ambiguous to some people, finance for adaptation and mitigation basically means that you are providing the right resources for us to adapt and also, mitigate the problems that we are facing that were not even caused by us in the first place, right? So, inside this mitigation and adaptation process, you have everybody working in this scheme. We have, the young people, we have organizations, we have CSOs, people like us who fall under non-governmental organizations and youth organizations who are working to help us mitigate and also adapt to climate change. We are in this process together. So when the discussions are going on about resources, finance, it's not something far-fetched. Is in between everybody working in climate adaptation and mitigation, which includes the young people, which includes the CSOs, the states, the non-state actors, and everyone basically working in climate change, right? So I would say that access to resources, like I mentioned, you have so many ideas, and even when you bring some of these ideas to execution, there is always the problem of scaling the ideas, and there's also the issue of when you get access to this finance, sometimes they come as loans, and you begin to wonder, okay, what are we supposed to do? We're trying to mitigate and help people get out of the global mess, and then we have to pay back, for the issues. We have to look for a way to make profit off making solutions, right? While I know that there is the aspect of social enterprise, we can talk about solar, wind energy, but there are some basic adaptation processes and solutions that would not give profit. So we need the resources to be given with no expectation of profits, right? Except you are investing in ideas like maybe solar energy, and maybe you have like grants for them. But majority of the resources that will be churned out should not be as loans, but rather as grants, right? That's the first thing. Access to resources is a big and major problem. And sometimes, the resources are available, but the question is, who gets the resources? What is the accountability and transparency processes for these resources to be disbursed? So you only just go online or go on Twitter and Instagram and see that, oh, somebody got this to do this, and you begin to connect the dots, and you cannot even see this person working in climate adaptation and climate mitigation, right? So the problem of accountability and transparency is also there. Then the second thing I would say is that, many people are not really talking about it, but I'm happy that there is an emergent thoughts and so many theories around climate anxiety for young people. Things are changing so fast. You're just growing up, you're 19, you're 18, and there's this global crisis affecting you. You are trying to figure your way out and make sure that you're adapting the right way. And sometimes it just catches up with you like, okay, here I am. You have to adapt to me, right? And we are not really, really talking about the climate anxiety and the mental health part of it. I watched a video, I had an interview with BBC, and then there was a video that was played after that showed in Lagos the level of flood. This one is always happening during rainy season. People have to move out of their houses. What does that translate to for kids who are supposed to be in school? What does that translate to for kids who their books are soaked from the flood and all the things they are experiencing because of climate change. So there, everything is just interconnected. But for young people, there's also the climate anxiety part of it, and we also need to, put that in retrospect, even during the planning for adaptation and mitigation, because people are already affected mentally, right? From women to young people to children, right? Imagine you're a baby, you're 5 years old, and you can't just understand what's going on around you, and every time your parents have to move you from point A to point B because of flood, because of storm, and so many other climate change crises, right? And the third part that I'm going to talk about is, like I said, we need more collaboration at all fronts, right? It's not a competition. We need to work hand in hand to make sure that we deliver on some of these solutions. We need to work together at all fronts, and there needs to also be intergenerational equity, right? We need the ideas from the old people. We also need the young people to bring forth ideas and make sure that the experiences from the time that we didn't exist, they can also help us to bring it into our realities, and we can work together to make sure that we are moving forward in, adapting and mitigating climate change. I think those are just the basic three challenges we've been facing so far: access to resources, climate anxiety, and definitely collaboration.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that comment. Let me also contribute to what you've said. You've actually touched base on so many things. Access to resources and the climate anxiety that is happening around the world now. I want to actually focus more on the access to resources. And this is one of the question I keep asking myself is, those big climate organizations there today, they started somewhere someday,
Mm.
and they are there where they are today. I remember very well, I was on a board to select young people across the world for a small grant program, and it's called Youth Climate Fund. And it's so interestingly that this fund was not sent to people to organizations. It was actually sent to young people directly to their direct bank accounts. Why? Just because we want to see the level of how young people are taking climate action more seriously, and how they can use that little funds to actually push their activity. Mind you, I don't want people to see it as if it's only money that young people is looking for. No,
Yeah.
we are actually looking for that change. When we say change, we're looking for that. I'm optimistic, but we need to put sense into our activities as well, because for us to get these people to listen to us, we need to understand the problem. And that is why your point on climate education is very, very important. Because if we don't have the knowledge, there's knowledge to practice, there's knowledge and as experts, and there's knowledge for you to know that what I'm doing, the action I'm doing, is actually contributing to the impact of climate change. So
Mm.
it's very, very important we understand those issues, and the access to resources. We can talk that from now to tomorrow, because a lot of young people are not only looking for access to money, they're looking for a space to express the experts, or express their knowledge, or how they can also contribute or add values to making opportunities being for people. Like one of my mentors always say, that everything you see in around climate action, make it an opportunity for yourself. It's like an investment opportunity for you. When you invest into learning, you definitely reap from that learning, because when your fellow mates are talking about issues, you'll be able to, there's some argument that if you don't understand, you can't argue about it. So
That's
the issue
true.
of climate change now is now issue of we as a young people. When we have the right access to resources, then we have right access to complement the efforts of the government or of the constituency that we are working with, or that we want to challenge, to make us to have a transparency and accountability in this space. So thank you very much. And the story of that you mentioned about the flooding, blah blah blah, that you talk. Let me tell you, this has not only been a Nigerian problem; it's a world problem. It's a world issue. Because I remember during COP, I jump into some side events, and I can see a lot of issues when it comes to adaptation activity projects, that a lot of people are actually facing a lot of problem. And when we talk about the developing countries, it's not only developing country this time, it also affects developed countries. But as long as you are promising us a certain amount of money per year to develop back, then you need to fulfill your promise. I keep saying, anything for us without us is not for us. So stop making us as a spectator. We are part of the strategy, we want to be part of the conversation, and want to be part of the implementation. So thank you very much for that. And let me go straight to the last question so that we can round up this session for our next session that will be coming. As face challenges of climate change, how does youth need to adapt for the future? So now let me quickly reframe this so that you can give me. I want to see in practical way, or in one or two, three statements. How do you think young people? How do we need to adapt to the future? When I say the future, because what the future is old for us as young people now when it comes to climate issues or comes to building movement is a very big problem. So how do you think young people can start to adapt to this issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the question, and you've touched on so many points. I would say there are three major things that we'll talk about, and the first one is, young people need to actively engage locally, nationally, and globally in raising awareness, either through education, technology, science, or law. And this brings me back to the point that everybody needs to be involved. This is not a fight, for environmentalists or people like me who went to school to study marine biology. This is everyone's fight. So either you're a lawyer, you're a scientist, you're a researcher, we need to work together. And this is one of the many ways that we can use to adapt to climate change. And via working together, we can produce many results. And the second part would be climate education. I know that we've been ringing this bell, but it is very important. And it doesn't just have to do with schools. It also has to do with, raising awareness online, talking to people. For example, when the COP26 happened and I was posting on my Instagram about it, people were curious, like they just know that I went to a big event, but what was the big event about? So I had to take a whole day to do a whole thread to tell them that everybody on this, in this event, everybody attending this event, no one is here to play. At least the young people who are there, we are here to make demands for everybody, right? And this brings me back to the fact that people are not aware. People do not know. All the schools we've worked with during our survey, they don't have anything like environmental education or climate education in their system or in their curriculum, right? So we had to start teaching them. And today, the joy is that, you can go back to these schools and there's a child who is telling you about climate change, global warming, deforestation. It gives them empowerment. It empowers them and gives them the right knowledge to take action, because these are the people who are going to be presidents, who are going to be business owners, and the knowledge they have today is going to influence whatever decision they are going to take in their companies, in their position or public spaces, right? Or public offices, rather. Like I said, climate education and actively engaging locally, nationally, globally in raising awareness, either through education, science, tech, or even law. For example, they just passed the climate change bill in Nigeria. Where is the place for lawyers? How do they make sure that this is translating to action? And how do they translate that document to something everybody can understand? Because it's not just okay to pass laws and bills. The question is, does the average Nigerian or the average person looking at that bill understand what is inside the bill so that they can take action? Then the last point would be that we need intergenerational equity. I know that we've been talking about the young people, but I also need to clear that young people can do and create change. But the question is, we also need, influence of the people before us and the ideas of the people before us. Even as we are young now, adding some years to our years now, like 10 years, 20 years, we're not going to be young people anymore, right? At least for majority of us, we're not going to be young people. So the question is, does that make our realities, or does that make our knowledge, out of date, or our knowledge not valuable to contributing to the conversations around climate change, right? That's not the point. So, in as much as we need young people at the table, we also need intergenerational equity. We need the knowledge of the people before us, and we need the knowledge of the people after us, because no man is an island of knowledge. So there needs to be a seamless flow of knowledge, of solutions from the people before us, and definitely we that we are here now and the people who are coming after us. So it's very important that we work hand in hand and not just also shove aside or shove the people who have gone, before us, right? So that we don't make the mistake of trying to create solutions that do not encompass the realities of everybody. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Temilade. That was very, very detailed. Let me quickly say that as you keep mentioning about, we are not getting younger anymore. We are getting, we continue to get older, and new generation will be coming after us. I can tell you that the time for us to make the change or to change the narrative of our leaders and for people to understand what we are bringing on board is now.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that now, then we are also a failed generation. And
Mm.
for us not to be a failed generation, that's why we want to make our government, our leaders to be accountable and transparent about every promises they give to us. And it's also very important to also know that you promise and you don't fulfill is a punishment for most of our upcoming generation. And if we continue to do this, then where are we going to find the future generation or the generation that we want to build today? So it's very, very important. And you said locally, nationally, internationally, we need to start looking at how young people can make themselves relevant. And I conclude by saying my outcome: compromising, greenwashing, lukewarm promises is what we've seen so far. And we don't want that again in this kind of space we find ourselves. As long as we have taken action, you have taken action, other young people have taken action in anywhere they are across the globe, then it shows that we have that potential, we have that power, we have that strength to take climate action into the next level. And after the long 2 weeks negotiation, a lot of people have been, registering their disappointment about how those promises were not in favor of developing countries. And
Mm.
it's a very big signal for young people, most especially, for us to that we are seeking for free word that reveal just how beholden to how we are talking about the fossil fuel interests that is still remain now, despite the increasingly uncertain future of humanity for future on Earth. And I keep saying it. Uh, uh, we've mentioned that we need to start getting our message out there through climate education, through intergenerational equity, through speaking to one or two, three people, advocating online, and telling people the importance and how they need to start changing their attitude and the mentality, because that's one of the key things that we need to do. So my question now to us, fellow people watching everywhere around the world, is that what has changed and what's next for the future of young people, and how can we get ourselves more involved in making sure that this space we find ourselves will not just be a space that so our Bible say, I will not just come and go like that, but we need to come, impact, improve, and get knowledge back to the upcoming generation. Thank you very much for that wonderful comment and wonderful submission for today. And I will keep saying that, in as much as every one of us will continue to do our own little contribution, then not only the future will be better, but the now or the present will be better for us and better for our future. And everybody across the world will be able to have the opportunity to say, yes, I've made my own input, and my input have changed the narrative of the world and the narrative of young people. So before we close this session, I want to quickly give you the floor to send us, or let me say, give us your strong message that you want to part away with young people. Encouragement, what you see that young people should start doing, or that message that you want to send to the whole world for everybody to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's been a great time here, and I'm so glad that this discussion is taking place. And I would like to say that whatever you're doing is important. If you're a climate change activist, if you're a lawyer, if you're a young person, you just have an idea, everything is important and we need you. And I know that there has been so many disappointments from the results of COP26. But this is not the time to back down. This is not the time, it's okay to take a break, but this is not the time to say, I am not doing this anymore, because we have a future, right, that we need to secure. We have a future that we need to save for some people who are coming after us. So all that you're doing is important. And I must say that while we're still asking for access to some of these things, I would say that your best tool is collaboration from person A, from person B, organization A. We are all young people. And the best tool we can use right now, since we don't have access to enormous resources, like I've said on this call, is the tool of collaboration, networking, and togetherness. We need it in this space because it is overwhelming and it can be draining, but we can do it. And this is not the time to back down. I think for me, from the results of COP26, I would say that it has only given me more energy to keep on doing what I'm doing, to double down on all the project that I'm doing. And this is not the time to say we're done. We're not done yet. There's still so much to do. And well done to everybody who is working in climate adaptation, mitigation, whatever you're doing, tech, science, research. Your place is important and we need you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Temilade, and we are very happy and grateful to have you on this space today, and for you to tell the young people we need more people to be together. Your best tool is collaboration. I've been saying that all over the year, and I'm very happy that you also echo that. And as for me, for you people watching, I think Temilade has challenged us today to say that our best tool to build the future of the young people and not to back down from the disappointment from COP is to do what? Network, togetherness, and collaborate. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.